So there was a conspiracy theory. Did you see this going around that Melania Trump had been replaced with a body double? Did you hear this? It's a rumor, but some people are pointing to these photos as proof. Take a look. So the woman on the left, they say is fake Melania, and the woman on the right is real Melania. But it didn't help that Donald Trump was saying, well, he said this while standing with her. Watch.
We will be doing that. My wife, Melania, who happens to be right here.
Why would you say that?
Why
would anyone ever?
What happens when you spend $75 million on a vanity project that absolutely nobody wants to see? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the most spectacular box office disaster of 2026, and it involves the First Lady of the United States, a disgraced Hollywood director with ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and the biggest Amazon flop in history. I'm talking about Melania, the documentary that's making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why even Jeff Bezos' billions couldn't save this train wreck. Let me paint you a picture. Amazon MGM Studios, yes, the same company that brings you Prime Video, dropped a staggering $40 million just to acquire this documentary. Add in the $35 million production cost, and we're looking at $75 million for a film about, well, we'll get to that. Here's where it gets absolutely hilarious. In Australia, yes, down under, the theater chain Hoyts reportedly sold just one pre-sale ticket. One. You literally have better odds finding someone who believes birds are real than finding someone who bought a ticket to this movie. But wait, it gets worse. Early projections have this documentary opening to just $2 to $8 million in its opening weekend. Let me put that in perspective for you. Amazon spent $75 million and they might make back less than 10% in the first weekend. That's not a flop. That's a catastrophe. Now, before we go any further, we need to address the elephant in the room, or should I say the fake Melania in the room. Since 2017, there's been this wild conspiracy theory that Melania Trump uses a body double for public appearances. I know, it sounds absolutely insane, but here's the thing. This theory has gained so much traction that even mainstream media outlets have had to address it. People on social media have analyzed everything from her facial features to her height, claiming that sometimes it's just not the real Melania standing next to Trump. Late night hosts have had a field day with this. Stephen Colbert even joked about it on his show, saying, just imagine the idea of Donald Trump replacing his wife. Come on. But honestly, after seeing how desperate they were to make this documentary happen, maybe having a body double for promotional appearances wasn't such a crazy idea after all. Here's where this story goes from funny to dark. The director of this $75 million disaster, Brett Ratner. If that name doesn't ring a bell, let me refresh your memory. Brett Ratner was exiled from Hollywood in 2017 after multiple women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct and harassment. We're talking about 6 actresses accusing him of everything from inappropriate behavior to assault. His name appears in the Epstein files. This is not some minor controversy. This guy was radioactive in Hollywood. For 7 years, no major studio would touch him. And then Trump wins the 2024 election, and suddenly Ratner gets handed the biggest comeback project imaginable, a documentary about the First Lady of the United States, funded by one of the richest men in the world. Coincidence? When you consider Jeff Bezos needs favorable treatment from the Trump administration for his businesses, including Amazon, Blue Origin, and the Washington Post, it starts to look a lot like a $75 million bribe disguised as a documentary. The documentary premiered on January 30th, 2026, and the internet immediately turned it into comedy gold. Comedians, late-night hosts, and social media users worldwide started roasting this thing before most people even saw it. My favorite joke came from comedian Jim David, who tweeted, "Someone broke into my apartment. They didn't take anything. They just left 4 tickets to Melania." He called it a hate crime. Another person said, "I'd rather have a crushed glass and Tabasco enema than see the Melania film." Someone else joked they'd rather take a ride on the Ocean Gate Titan II submersible, the one that imploded, than sit through 2 hours of this propaganda. In Los Angeles, movie posters for Melania were being vandalized across the city. People were so repulsed by this obvious cash grab that they were defacing the advertisements. Before we continue, let's take a moment to appreciate the legend that is Trevor Noah and his absolutely savage takes on the Trump-Melania relationship over the years. Trevor once joked about Melania's birthday, saying, like, what does that mean? He's like, honey, I've got a great celebration planned for us today. I'm going to talk to some TV people while sitting on the toilet. The man has been roasting this couple for years, and honestly, every joke has aged like fine wine. So what do you actually get for that $75 million? Well, according to reviews, not much. The film supposedly gives a fly-on-the-wall view of Melania in the days leading up to Trump's second inauguration. It's basically a glorified home video with a Hollywood budget. There's a scene where Donald calls Melania to congratulate her, and people are saying it looks so staged that they probably recorded his side separately. One critic called it hollow barrel, which is perfect because we don't know who Melania Trump is, what she stands for, or literally anything about her. The documentary that was supposed to reveal the real Melania somehow made her even more mysterious. Even crew members who worked on the film are coming forward saying it was a disaster to make. When the people who worked on your movie are calling it a flop, you know you've hit rock bottom. Here's the most hilarious part of this entire disaster. MAGA supporters love to brag about how 73 million people voted for Trump. They'll tell you all day long about how he has this massive base of loyal supporters who would do anything for him. So, where are they? If Trump really has 73 million devoted followers, why isn't this documentary crushing it at the box office? Why are theaters selling one ticket in entire countries? Why are projections showing it might not even crack $10 million opening weekend? The math doesn't add up. If even 1% of Trump voters bought a ticket, this would be the highest grossing documentary of all time. But instead, it's tracking to be one of the biggest bombs in recent memory. Maybe, just maybe, people are tired of the Trump circus. Maybe they're exhausted by the constant narcissism, the corruption, the chaos, or maybe, and hear me out, nobody actually likes these people, and the silent majority was always just a loud minority with Twitter bots. Can we talk about Jeff Bezos for a second? The man is worth over $200 billion, and somehow he still thought paying $75 million for this propaganda piece was a good investment. This is the most Amazon has ever paid for a single piece of content, more than they spent on The Lord of the Rings of Power per episode, more than their biggest celebrity deals. They bet the farm on Melania Trump, and it's backfiring spectacularly. The Hollywood Reporter is already calling it a historic flop. Deadline says it's one of the worst performing wide releases in recent memory. Variety is questioning whether this will impact Amazon's future content acquisitions. But here's the real kicker. Amazon won't admit to any ulterior motives for acquiring it. They're pretending this was just a normal business decision, not a $75 million attempt to curry favor with the Trump administration. Social media has been absolutely ruthless. The memes alone are worth more than the actual documentary. On TikTok, people are creating parody trailers that are getting more views than promotional content for the actual film. On Twitter, Melania flop has been trending for days. Instagram is filled with before and after memes showing the $75 million budget versus the empty theater seats. Reddit threads have thousands of comments roasting everything from the choice of director to the obvious staged scenes. One person commented, "This documentary has accomplished the impossible. It made Melania Trump less interesting than we thought she was." Let's step back and look at what this disaster really represents. This isn't just about a bad documentary or a box office flop. This is about the normalization of corruption, about billionaires using their wealth to buy favor with political leaders, about giving second chances to people accused of serious misconduct because they're politically useful. Brett Ratner, accused by multiple women of sexual assault and harassment, name appearing in Epstein documents, gets his Hollywood comeback not because he's talented or deserving, but because he's willing to make propaganda for Trump. Jeff Bezos, one of the richest humans alive, spends $75 million not because he believes in artistic merit, but because he needs Trump's administration to be friendly to his business interests. And Melania Trump, who has spent years avoiding the spotlight, who clearly doesn't want to be First Lady, is now paraded around promoting this vanity project because why exactly? Money, legacy, control. The entire thing reeks of corruption, and the American people can smell it from a mile away. That's why they're not buying tickets. That's why this is bombing, because at the end of the day, you can't buy authenticity, and you can't force people to care about someone who has shown zero interest in them. So what have we learned from the $75 million disaster that is the Melania documentary? First, money can't buy popularity. No matter how many millions you throw at something, if the public isn't interested, they won't show up. Second, the Me Too movement still matters and people remember. Trying to rehabilitate Brett Ratner's career by attaching him to political power, the public sees right through it. Third, Amazon just learned an expensive lesson about mixing business with politics. This $75 million investment might be the most obvious bribe in modern corporate history, and it's blowing up in their face. And finally, the American people might be divided on a lot of things, but apparently we can all agree that nobody wants to pay money to watch Melania Trump pretend to be relatable for 2 hours. This documentary will go down in history, not for what it revealed about Melania Trump, but for what it revealed about the people who made it, desperate, corrupt, and completely out of touch with reality. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the biggest box office disaster of 2026, smash that like button, subscribe for more political commentary, and drop a comment below telling me, would you pay to see this documentary? I'm guessing the answer is a resounding no. And remember, when billionaires and politicians team up to push propaganda down your throat, the best response is to just not show up. Let them waste their millions. Let them fail spectacularly, because that's the real power we have as citizens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one where we break down whatever disaster the Trump administration creates next. Trust me, with these people, there's always something new.